The home buying process is unfortunately very complicated, but fortunately for you guys, we've thrown together a list of the top 5 things that you're going to need to do throughout the process. Before we get into it though, if you could head down below and hit that subscribe button, as well as the notification bell, stay updated with all of our content. And while you're down there, leave us a comment, let you know what you liked, what you didn't like, what you might want to see in the future.
We did list 5 things here for, what people need to do in order to buy a house. There's actually more to it, but these are the 5 things that we really need you to do in order to make the process comfortable for you, to make sure that there isn't any scary things that happen down the road.
Yeah,
So
it's the big 5 check marks that you're going to hit, the big 5 checkpoints. First and foremost, go and talk to a mortgage specialist of some sort, whether it's at the bank, a mortgage broker, talk to someone. It's important to get pre-approved. That way you know how much you can afford when it comes to buying a house, because without knowing your price range, it's decision paralysis. There's just so much out there, you don't know where you can even start.
So there's different types of pre-approvals though too. So we get calls from people all the time that say, "Oh, I'm pre-approved." Well, what does that mean? Well, okay, well I called the bank and I told them I make this much money and they said, "Okay, well you can afford this." Well, it's not just that, because that they're not taking into account what your monthly payments are, different debts and that you have. So you need to speak to someone that does a full credit bureau on you, gets your credit score, takes a look at your income, your expenses, etc. There's what's called a GDS and TDS, which is gross debt service and total debt service, and there's numbers for those. Now, some people go to a bank, some people go to a mortgage broker. The interesting thing with a bank is this, and it's happened to myself personally, where you go to the bank where you've been doing business there for 15 years, as an example, and they say, "Okay, Mr. and Mrs. Keogh, here is your rate." And you look at them and go, "Pardon me?" And so you go out and you talk to a mortgage broker and they shop your rate. The mortgage broker only gets paid if they get you a mortgage. And they're not, and if you're with an A lender, there is no fees. That mortgage person is paid by the bank, right? So you say, for example, you're at TD and you go to TD and they say your interest rate is 4.5%. And you go to the mortgage broker shops your mortgage to different banks. They may even go back to TD and they come back and say, "Oh, by the way, I got you 4% at TD."
Number 2, for the love of all that is holy, please, please, please get yourself a buyer's rep, a realtor. A lot of people, what they do is they'll see a house that they like and they go and they reach out to the listing agent who, in theory, great. Oh, you're dealing with a real estate professional. Here's the problem. That real estate agent they have a fiduciary duty.
That's a responsibility.
Yeah, they are in contract with the seller. They are doing their duty for the seller. They are not representing you, which is why it's important to find a realtor to represent you, so that way there's not any confusion and you have someone who's looking out for your best interests.
So what generally happens too is realtors figure by going with the listing agent, they'll get a discount in the commission. 99% of the time that does not happen, because the buyer is going to take the commission off anyway. So, and if you get a buyer's agent or a real estate agent working for you, their fiduciary duty or their responsibility is to do the best job for you. Right. So you need someone that you know, like, and trust. If you don't have anybody, we can recommend somebody. But make sure you find someone, guys. And if you're working with a real estate agent now and you trust them and they did a great job for you, please call them, because that's what it's all about.
Number 3 on our list, and this is where the fun finally gets to start, in my opinion: house hunting, and then ultimately making an offer. House hunting can take anywhere from 5 minutes to 5 months to 5 years. The important thing during this process is not to worry about it at all, right? The amount of time that it takes to find you a house is the amount of time that it takes. We've had clients in the past apologize that they're taking so long to find something, but it doesn't matter. We're here to help. Whatever works the best for you, which might change, by the way, from when you start to when you finally end up buying. It's a process. It's going to change. It's going to evolve. You might find out you thought you wanted, an open concept, but it turns out that you like a couple more walls in there to get things more separated.
Well, and we talked about it before. What happens with clients when you first start working with them, they don't want to call you because they feel like they're bothering you.
Yep.
Right. It's, "Oh, I didn't want to call you on this house. I didn't want to call you on that house." That's what we do. We show houses, we work with you. Like, so the biggest thing is don't be afraid to pick up the phone, fire off a text to say, hey, we'd like to see this house, like to see this. That's our job. So don't ever feel it's an inconvenience, right?
You wouldn't not call a plumber because you don't want to inconvenience them over a leak in your pipe. It's literally our job. Call us. Let us help.
Well, and the other thing we do with our clients that they create a list, right? There's needs and wants,
Yep.
right? What happens throughout, as you talked about, maybe your needs change. Maybe you don't need this. Maybe you don't need that. And then the other thing is needs and wants. What that breaks down to is it'd be nice if I had it, but I absolutely have to have this. So, and that will change throughout the process. And then the other thing that happens is, say you're not available to go look at a house. You're both at work, or someone's at work, or what we'll do is we'll go out and we'll look at the house for you. We'll take a video, we'll do a walkthrough with it, and it'll be like you're in the house. And then you'll be able to look at that video. And especially if it's a market where it's competitive, where, maybe it's a seller's market and you need to get into that property, we're going to go through that property for you. And when you get to the offer process, there's a few things that need to happen. So we talked about pre-approval with your financing. And what does that look like? And why do we do that? Well, we get you pre-approved so that we put you into a price point that you can afford and you're comfortable with. There's nothing worse. You show a client a house and they love it, but they find out that it's outside their price range because they didn't go through and do the pre-approval,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely. Well, it's heartbreaking, to be honest. They fall in love with it and it's, oh, sorry, this is just outside, right? And part of the important thing when you're making offers is just because you can afford X, Y, or Z does not mean that you should push that upper limit, right? You want to make sure that when you're putting in your offer, you break it down more into, what are my monthly payments going to look like and what is sustainable, not what is going to get me this place. Because quite frankly, if it's your dream home, but it's making living a nightmare, it's not a dream you want to be a part of, right? And then you just start talks with the seller to see, find a price that everyone's happy with, find closing date, and move forward from there.
Yeah, because it's not all about price and when you present an offer, because you could have a great price and a terrible closing date. Maybe the owner of the house has already bought a house, so there's all kinds of different things that come into play when you're doing an offer. As we talked about earlier about getting yourself a realtor, that real estate agent that you hire, that you're working with, is going to use those things to your advantage. So maybe you've got a flexible closing date. Let's use that to your advantage so that the seller can think that, oh, they can meet my closing date. Well, maybe that translates back to you don't pay as much money for the house because you're accommodating that.
Yes.
So it's give and take throughout it, right?
Absolutely.
Fourth thing, home inspections.
Yeah. Once you've got yourself an accepted offer, you're going to be moving forward. 9 times out of 10, a condition in that offer is going to be on a home inspection. I would highly recommend it. I would say 10 out of 10 offers should have a home inspection because you never know. Basically, what that comes down to is hire a qualified professional. Again, if you don't know people, your real estate agent most definitely does. And they're going to look at everything from top to bottom, up into the attic, down into the basement. They're going to check absolutely everything to make sure that it is good. And at the end of their inspection, you're going to be getting a report. And the important thing with that report is that based on it, you can do 3 things. You can accept, you can reject, or you can modify the current offer. And what that means is that you can say, okay, based on this report, everything in the house is acceptable. It's what we thought it was going to be. Let's move forward. You can reject it by saying, well, that's too much. Whether it be mold in the attic or, maybe there's a foundational issue, and you just say, nope, wash your hands of it. You're done. You'll get your deposit back and all that good stuff. Or, which is most common, you can modify. You can say, okay, I expected at this price for this to be good, but if you guys do X, Y, or Z, whether it's a couple minor repairs or maybe you adjust the price, then I'm okay with going forward. So you basically enter a second round of negotiations based on the home inspection.
So, and as you said, anytime throughout, if the house does not firm up, as you call it, or you go ahead, you get your deposit back, and there's no penalty or anything with that. So it's just what it does is your deposit holds that property for you for going forward. So,
Yes. And finally, on our list of 5 things, we've got budgeting for your closing costs.
budget for closing. So what we end up having is 1 to 4% roughly of the purchase price is what goes towards your closing costs. Lawyer fees, land transfer tax fees, Home inspection is another one of the costs, and a possible prepayment of mortgage and hydro costs.
So just to recap, we've got get pre-approved, find yourself a realtor. It's a big one for me personally. Uh, House hunting slash putting in an offer on your property, your home inspection or other conditions along the way, and budgeting for your closing costs. Well, that's our list of the five most important steps in the home buying process. What do you guys think? Did we forget something? Was there something that you feel is more important? Let us know in the comments down below. But until then, we'll see you in the next one.